So I'm going to do faceted pieces. It's going to start out with a thick walled cylinder. I'm throwing it off the hump so that when I cut through, I can cut all the way through the piece and not have to run into the wheel head. So I'm gonna keep it nice and thick. This is a tool you can get on eBay, I think still. It's a clay art tool. It's a, I think they call it a, I think they might call it a faceter or a mini harp or something. But I'm going to cut through. I'm not so concerned with how much I cut through or how thick the slices are. I want there to be variation so that when it spreads out there's more interest. If I wanted it to be really even, I would cut it off after it's been trimmed. So if you have a fast wheel, you can spin it up and it'll throw all the pieces off. If you've got a slow wheel, you've got to pick them off by hand, which ends up being a little messy. I'll go back and I'll clean up some of the edges that aren't as sharp with a rib. So it ends up being nice and clean. I don't have to fuss with it after I've stretched it. I'm going to take on the inside, I'm going to press it out. On the inside I'll use a rib to clean it up. Dry it out, and then clean up the edge. Cut off and it's a little faceted bowl. You notice that the lip undulates and that the twists, or the ribs are twisted now because the force you apply to it as you stretch it out. Now that was the simple variation for faceting. There are other, ways to facet depending on the look that you're going for. I'm just going to do these on simple bowls so that you get the idea of what they can look like. On different shapes, cylinders and such. They're going to be pretty much the same. It's going to change some though. This one I'm going to clear off the outside of it so it's nice and smooth. Now I've got a tool that I've made and it's got a wiggly wire, so it's got two wires twisted together, and this will give a different cut when you push it through, making this one a little more uniform. Hopefully I'll be able to spin this one fast enough that everything will come off. Clean enough. I'm going to again stretch it out. I'm going to do this one really dry though, so I'm not going to wet my hands. Make sure the inside is dry. I'm going to push on the outside. You can actually see it start to twist now. I'm going to hold the top and cause it to twist more. So you can see that it's really twisting out. Now I'm going to push it out. So once it's pushed out, it'll look like that, and then I'll go back with the rib and clean up the inside, and that'll clean up the outside. Back and clean up the edge. And a lot of this edge stuff, that it's messy now, before I trim it, I'll hit it with a sponge and clean it off. Because it's porcelain, there won't be any grog trails that show up. It'll end up being nice and smooth. Facet again. This time I'm going to go in and out as I push through the piece. I want to leave this really thick because as I go in and out, I want the thinnest spots to be thick enough to still be stretched out. I'm going to make this one also pretty narrow so that I can really stretch it out and get a lot of variation in the surface. I want it to be straight up and down as well, so that as I stretch it out, it's not going to be thicker in one spot than another. So I want it straight up and down. Okay. Now facet, I'm going to go in and out. as I move down the piece. I know on this one, where it's thin, sometimes it won't rip off. So I need to pay attention to how thin the pieces are. So if there's a part that looks like it's going to stick, I need to remove it now before I start to spin it. Like that piece there. Okay. Now on this one I'm going to wet because I don't want to put too much stress on it. So on the inside I'll wet it and I'll push out. So I'm not pushing out in one direction. If you notice, I'm splitting my fingers so it's pressing out in two directions. Then I'll go back with the rib. Again, all the boogery stuff I'll clean up after.